Welcome to all of our BPTV viewers and our YouTube viewers and our new fans and old fans. I'm Al Levine, the Talking Machine, with my co-producer, co-host Jessica Lee, and we're doing another by request BPTV show. We have a great show for you today. Thanks for the views and the likes out there. Don't forget to go to jessicaleejazz.com or Jessica Lee Jazz on YouTube, because we're not posting a lot on Facebook, so we appreciate you guys sharing and looking out there. So that's my tip of the day, and I'm going to bring Jessica Lee on for what our by request plan is.
Hey, Al, I want to say hello to you and hello to Dave Cable at BPTV, who's helping us to produce this show. And I want to also just thank everybody for sending in the song requests. So jessicaleejazz.com is the website, and people can email me there and let me know if they have song requests. And as you said, we are putting everything up on YouTube as well. I think that a lot of people are having a lot of interesting song requests at this time coming in. We've had a lot happen since you and I have talked last on this show. So before we get into some of it, show us what you're drinking today.
This is my loose leaf green tea, and it's special. It was made at Tupelo Honey Teas. It's called, believe it or not, Talking Machine Green Tea. I put 8 different ingredients, including green tea and other things like hibiscus, turmeric, some healthy things in there. And Danielle Spinola at Tupelo Honey Teas, who you met, she created it. Said it tasted good. She goes, Al, you must have known what you're doing. So it's great to have that, and I'm doing very well. The weather hasn't been that great, but I'm staying. Oh, you got your cup of water.
So to your health, Al, to your health. I'm glad you're sipping on tea. I have hot water I drink all day, and white tea is my thing. But I wanted to say, as we move into the song requests, we had this song request from multiple people. So I was like, okay, I'm listening. A song request from multiple people for Why Don't You Do Right? Now, it's interesting because almost a year ago, Kobe Bryant, the legendary Kobe Bryant, NBA basketball star, unexpectedly went to heaven, plane crash, his daughter Gigi, their friends were with them. It was so tough and tragic for those of us who, used to follow Kobe for 20 some years in his career. Right. And especially towards the end of his career, Al, as he did right. He became a girl dad. He started to support the WNBA and women's basketball. He was a mentor to a lot of people in his later years. And even though he was still so young, right? And so Why Don't You Do Right came from multiple people asking for this. And I think it's funny because when you go into a new year, like we discussed last time, you have a lot of resolutions.
Yes.
And Kobe's 1-year anniversary of his death has brought some new documentaries and stories and things to the news and to the television. And one of the things I saw just in the past couple of days, Al, was about how do you live such an excellent high performance life? Like people would ask Kobe that all the time. What's your secret? And he would say, it's a lifestyle. It's not like a workout plan or a basketball plan. There is a lifestyle that you have to live in order to be a super high performer in whatever you do. And if you want to leave this life as a legend in whatever your field is, whatever you want to do and accomplish, you need to live the lifestyle of a legend. And, it's funny because Kobe struggled in his life. He had some really tough times, and he came through a lot and went through a lot of controversy. But why don't you do right like the other men do, right? Like the other people do. Why don't you do right? Get out of here. Give me some money too. Get out of here. Go do right. Figure it out. And so it's interesting that this song, is kind of a funny song. Again, it's a classic jazz and blues tune.
Yes.
But man, it talks about for everybody out there who's watching today who has stumbled, who feels that I've had tough times, I have regrets, I wish I could get a do-over in a certain part of my life.
Sure.
Yeah. This is about second chances, this kind of theme, and about how you live a legendary lifestyle. So what do you think about that, Al, the legendary lifestyle?
Well, I'm about a lifestyle type of guy, from cooking to having tea to trying to stay in good health nutritionally and working out and stuff like that. By the way, I started my rowing machine 2 weeks every day now. So I've been doing that. I'm with that. I started earlier than February, but it's worth it. I'm feeling good because I can't really walk out in the weather because of my kidney transplant and anti-remission drugs. So I just try to stay healthy. And about Kobe Bryant, I had followed him over the years, and he had a few slips, and he was young, and he was into the NBA and a superstar before he even played. So you're going to have mistakes when you're young and you're a little naive. And I had friends that were arguing with me, why should we honor Kobe Bryant? And I said a simple thing. I go, everybody deserves a second chance if they have changed to better themselves and others. And they go, where do you come up with that? I go, the truth is the truth. Just go by that. And I can talk, so I just cut it short at that. That this is that second chance or third chance that you need out there. And don't live in the past, live in today and look for the future. That's what I say.
That's right. And I think that everybody who's out there who uses Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, all that social media, as well as the television, you really, if you look carefully enough, there are a lot of people who had a dark time in their lives. And the question is, what are you going to do? Are
Yes.
you going to rise above it and say, I'm going to overcome this? Or are you going to fall beneath it and kind of let it wreck your life, right? So Why Don't You Do Right is an interesting song that's lasted for a long time. Al, this was a song written in the 30s, 1930s.
Yeah, you are correct.
So let's hear this song and talk about it on the other side. But I want to just say, if you're watching today and you have any regrets, there's plenty of time, even if you're older, to start again and to build into a legendary lifestyle that ends up. It's not how you start, Al, it's how you finish.
Let's start right now with Why Don't You Do Right?
Hey everyone, this is Jessica Lee. I'm stopping by this piano here today by request. I'm sending out this one song. It's one of my old favorites. It's called Why Don't You Do Right? By request. Why don't you do right? The age-old question. Let other people make a fool of you. Why don't you do right like the other men do now? Get out of here now. Get me money too. You're sitting round, you're wondering what it's all about. Don't get some money, they will put us out. Why don't you do right like the other men do now? If you had prepared 20 years ago, you would not be stumbling out from door to door. Why don't you do like the other men do? Get out of here now, give me money too. Fell for your jive and I took you in. Now all you got to give me is a drink of gin. Why don't you do right like the other men do? Get out of here, give me money too, yeah, now, give me money too, give me money too, now, give me money, give me money too. Why don't you do right?
That playing and singing, as I say each time, are great. I listen to the words again, and it's an inspiration during this new year. Thank you for suggesting this song, and thank you for posting it on Facebook. So I got a double whammy of get rid of the blues, because I'm going to do right, and we'll talk about this. So what do you say?
I think that's awesome, Al, that you looked into the history of this song. So I'm really excited to learn about it. And I do learn from you when you really dig deeply on these songs. Even I learn new things about them. So I'm excited to hear. But before we hear about the history of this song, Why Don't You Do Right? I also want to just shout out to a couple of beautiful musicians. I did a recording of this song, Why Don't You Do Right, on my first album called Bluebird Fly. And Chris Hemingway, a beautiful saxophonist, did a great solo, and it's been streaming and been licensed all over the world at this point. So that we did a really cool version with the legendary pianist as well, John D'Amico. John was on this one, played just beautifully. So I just want to shout out. I remember John, he's in heaven now, but tell us about the history, Al, of this particular song.
You just piqued my interest, and I'm honored that you learn a few little nuggets from me, because you're like a historian and don't know it because of your research and your mind. You know, being so smart like you are, you always give me these tidbits, and you know I go crazy with it. So here we go. This song was originally called and recorded as the Weed Smoker Dream, and it was a marijuana song. And it first got recorded in 1936, and it was Kansas Joe McCoy and Herb Morand, and it was 1936, and it was a black jazz and blues influenced song, and they both got credit for it. So it was cool there, and it's considered a classic women's blues song, and has become a standard song because of that. And that started back in 1936. Now the Harlem Ham Fats recorded the Weed Smoker's Dream, and that was in 1936. Well, lo and behold, 1941, Why Don't You Do It Right was recorded by Lil Green, who's a famous American blues singer, songwriter, and was the leading female R&B singer in the 40s, and just so well known. And she also was with the guitar player William Big Bill Bronzy. So I'm digging deep here on that. And the song got let me think here. I gotta flip the page. And it was performed by Peggy Lee and Benny Goodman, July 27th, 1942, and featured in a 1943 movie, Stage Door Canteen. And guess what? She sold over 1 million copies of the song, and it provided nationwide attention to her. She became a superstar, and you know, everybody's heard of Peggy Lee, and the song reached #4 on the Billboard charts. But what's amazing is Kansas Joe McCoy rewrote this song as "Why Don't You Do Right" from a woman's perspective. And that's why there's a humorous tone knowing that a man wrote this song. And
Yeah, that's actually an excellent point. This is a guy writing this saying it's going to be a woman singing it to me.
Yes.
I think that's funny. And I also note that if you remember some animation history, there was a character named Jessica Rabbit.
Yes.
Who sang this song, quote unquote. A lot of people, when I sing the song, say, "Oh, that's the Jessica Rabbit song."
No, when they go back in history, it just is, you know, unbelievable with that. No, it's just so many people have sang that song because I started YouTubing it, and almost everybody that's anybody sang the song, Jess. And
Yeah, and yet, depending on where you are in the country, if you go out and listen to live jazz and American music, people may or may not perform that song live today. So
Right.
it's not one of the ones I hear a lot. Do you know today?
No, you're right. It's
Yeah.
popular, but in a sense, it's not, you know, because of that. Definitely.
Yeah,
So
and I
great,
think
great choice.
yeah, I think that what's interesting, Al, a while back, and I want to remember just a couple people with that song. A while back, you know, I really was looking around for a tremendous jazz club where maybe a Thursday happy hour could work and bring
Sure.
people together who don't normally come together around innovation, entrepreneurship, like a jazz happy hour to help people come together and network and get to know each other and be introduced to the art form. And Dow's on Ninth, DOWE apostrophe S, Dow's on Ninth, Al Dow, the trombonist, started up a beautiful club downtown Pittsburgh with the vocalist Etta Cox. And you remember Dow's on Ninth. It was a beautiful,
Yes.
beautiful club. Well, every single time I sang that Thursday weekly jazz happy hour for years,
Yeah.
I began the first set with that song.
You're kidding.
Why Don't You Do Right?
Wow.
And over the years, it was just kind of a good song to warm up. It's a cool little bluesy song, and it gives people a chance to stretch out,
Yes.
do some soloing, no matter what you play or whatever. And it was interesting to hear all kinds of different players play with us over the years and do some improvising on that little song. And I just want to say that I want to shout out, especially, I said Chris Hemingway is a beautiful saxophone player who played on the recording that I did on Bluebird Fly album of that song. But one of the people who mentioned that in the last week to me was saxophone great Jay Willis.
Wow.
And Jay has played that song with me many times in the past. And
I've heard it.
He's been overcoming COPD. He's been struggling with COPD. Now, for a saxophonist to not be able to breathe that well and have to deal with that type of a lung challenge has been rough, but he's been doing it. And so I really look forward to having all of us overcome all of our challenges, including this COVID-19 pandemic, and again, get back together. I can't wait to have a gig where Jay Willis comes and plays on that song with us again, and guitarist Mark Strickland and everybody else. So
yes, let me second that emotion.
Yeah. A big hi to Jay and all the musicians out there who we miss, and that I just want to send out a little of that green tea healing energy to Jay.
Yeah. To Jay. My friend. No, and I remember like 5, 6 years ago, we were doing a show. It's now the Wyndham, where he had to sit down and rest, and that broke my heart, knowing because he was just a trooper, and he did the best he could, but he just couldn't go. And I said, just sit there and relax. We'll enjoy what we can. And I just tried to distract him, and we talked about sports and things. But that's a picture that's still in my mind from the show you did there.
Having COPD, for anybody that has that out there, and other things like that are very tough and rough and require a lot of courage to keep going on. The interesting thing is the doctors told Jay that because he plays the saxophone and continues to practice despite having COPD, his lungs are stronger than a normal person's, and his muscles around the diaphragm and all of that. So that just shows you keep on keeping on, right? Keep moving one day at a time, one day at a time. So Al,
even if you don't think you're a fighter, just fight on.
Absolutely. And I was going to say there, do you have any other little tidbits that you want to share with us about that song, or should we move on to the next one?
No, we covered a lot and a little bit extra there that you put in and I put in. So I think we're good. Please tell our fans what the next song is. Okay. Jess?
So the next song I first heard on a recording, and it was the great legendary Sarah Vaughan who was singing Lullaby of Birdland. And I thought, man, that's a cool tune. And I'm a bird lover. I know some people out there like to watch and listen to songbirds.
Yes.
And, Lullaby of Birdland. And I thought, that's such a cool tune. Yeah, I love it. I'm going to learn it. As I performed live over the years, a lot of the older jazz lovers would request that song, Al, from time to time. And, the lyric is sweet, and the song itself is kind of interesting. The melody is kind of unique. And I thought to myself, well, somebody's been requesting this, and we performed this together. Al, you were there helping to film it, the By Request concert. Right before it got too cold to be outside, we did a By Request concert. So this is Mark Strickland on guitar, one of our jazz legends, and myself outside of the Carnegie Music Hall in Carnegie, PA. This particular song, though, has a connection that I never knew about, Al, to the legendary Birdland Jazz Club in New York City.
Right.
Never knew, until we started doing this show. I know we started looking at these songs a little more
deeper. We went deeper.
Yeah. And so why don't we take a listen to this song? We sang it at twilight. You can see it getting darker.
Oh, yeah.
And there were birds flying overhead and singing, and it was just wonderful. Twilight scene, live jazz. What do you think we listen and talk about it?
Let's do it right now, Jess.
A lullaby of Birdland, that's what I always hear. When you sigh, never in my wordland could there be ways to reveal in a phrase how I feel. Have you ever heard two turtle doves, bill and coo? When they love, that's the kind of magic music we make with our lips when we kiss. And there's a weepy old willow, he really knows how to cry. That's how I cry in my pillow. If you should tell me farewell and goodbye, lullaby of Birdland, whisper low, kiss me sweet, and we'll go flying high in Birdland, high in the sky up above, all because we're in love. Lullaby of birdland, that's what I always hear. When you sigh, never in my wordland could there be ways to reveal in a phrase how I feel. Have you ever heard two turtle doves, bill and coo? When they love, that's the kind of magic music we make with our lips when we kiss. And there's a weepy old willow, he really knows how to cry. That's how I'd cry on my pillow if you should tell me farewell and goodbye. Lullaby of birdland, whisper low, kiss me sweet, and we'll go flying high in birdland, high in the sky up above. All because we're in love. Shabba-dabba-dip-dip-dip-wee-ay. Shabba-dabba-dip-wee-ay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Jess, you know I like giving compliments out. These are all well-deserved. With you and Mark Strickland, it was off the charts. His playing, as it was getting colder, I know he was struggling because of the temperature, and your voice just sounded great. Thanks to Brando again on the sound system. It just came through just so great. I listened to the words again. And when I first heard Birdland, I remember in Mount Lebanon, there's a community like Birdland with all the names of streets after birds. So when I found the history going back to 1952, we'll get into that. But thank you again for suggesting this song. And I hope all of you listen to the words and the music. As the sun was setting, you could tell we weren't in the daylight anymore. It was starting to get a little darker. And that just made it even more beautiful to hear the voice and the music from the guitar legend, Mark Strickland.
Yes, singing outside of the Carnegie Music Hall in Carnegie, PA at twilight was a really special experience. The birds, they were flying overhead and the sun was setting in such a beautiful way. And for people who are jazz and blues lovers, you know, the nightlife,
Yes.
when it starts to get dusk and twilight and evening time going into that beautiful dark night, that's when the players come out to play the music. And so it was a good time. And a lot of people will say to me, Jess, why don't you play the piano more? And I say, when you have a player like Mark Strickland, I'd rather sing with him. He's so good. So he is one of our living jazz legends of the Pittsburgh region, and a tremendous performance. And we really had a good time. Again, a shout out to Brandon Martin. We call him Brando on sound. He did a good job. So tell us what you found, especially, you know, like I said, the legendary is the word of the show.
Yes.
Jazz Club in New York City, Birdland. I don't know how many people have been there. I've been there. Al, have you ever been to Birdland in New York City? All right, we'll talk about that, but tell us what you learned.
Well, here's what I learned. The owner of Birdland, Morris Levy, asked for a song to be for their radio show that they were doing, and it'd be played every day and every hour for the show. So he wanted something upbeat to do it. And it was all about his club, Birdland. So to me, now it all made sense. Lullaby of Birdland, because I never knew. It was just a cool song when I heard it over the years. And the one-man band that Mark Strickland is, he just ties everything together, and it's like one big package. I understand why you only play piano at home because of that. And to steal a phrase, this is your life. So that's the nightlife, and I appreciate that. But getting back to this, it was a great legendary club in New York. You've been there, so you know that. And it's just a great thing. And this gentleman, George Shearing, uh, composed it, and the lyrics are by George David Weiss. And George Shearing was such a star over the years. And the first listen I had after you was to Sarah Vaughan, and it was just magical. I could see why you were attracted to it, because I know you're a fan of Sarah Vaughan, but that song just grabs you. Wouldn't you agree?
It does. It's a really sweet love song if you listen to the lyric. And Mark and I tipped our hat to Sarah Vaughan with that arrangement. We wanted to do that intro and the outro, to tip our hat to her. We both love her so much. She was such a great influence and artist. Yeah. So yeah, Al, Birdland in New York City. Let's talk about this for a minute.
Sure.
This was one of the iconic, and remains one of the iconic, jazz clubs in the United States. And it is just beautiful inside. It's intimate, but it's not tiny. And it is classy. It just drips of class.
Right.
And it makes you feel like you've gone back into time, and the Rat Pack and Frank Sinatra and Sammy Davis and all, they could just walk out any minute and appear on that stage. It's that kind of a throwback feel, when the classic era of jazz. And so I want to say to everybody who is a venue owner right now, whether you're a restaurant owner, a jazz club owner, a theater owner, that our hearts are with you. It's a tough time where during the COVID-19 pandemic, many of those doors have had to close for a time. Al, they will reopen.
Yeah.
We know it will look different when they do. Some will reopen under different names. Some won't reopen, but somebody new will come along and put something different. The music will live on, but it may look like a different landscape. And so, I just want to give everybody a shout out who's going through trying to keep a venue open, that we all are pulling for you. And we do have a lot of people who are trying to help the musicians as well make it through this time in various ways with nonprofit programs and more. And really looking forward to when the weather warms up. And I think some of these venues can at least do outdoor performances or socially distanced partial performances. But Birdland, if you're in New York City and it's open, it's worth stopping by and checking it out. Yeah.
No, thanks for your information. I like history in general, and I like older places and the history there that brings you back in time. And I think that's one of the coolest things. And then to have a cool song like this as icing on the cake is even better. So it's great. And I wish everybody well out there that's in business and trying to survive. And, I feel bad for the ones that had to close and aren't coming back. And that happens in time. So we'll just think positively that by our little show here, we're helping to enlighten other people and show them music, and personalities like us are able to do this and provide you some entertainment and chase away your blues.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right, Al. And I think that during the pandemic, the one thing that's been really cool is that this by request show, we've been able to kind of take it through walls into the shut-in community. So people who are in nursing homes, who are in senior living homes, we've been able to honor song requests and get them some music. And so I do have a new live album out with Mark Strickland and friends called I Wish You Love. And that particular album, for people who may be interested in it, they can visit jessicaleejazz.com. All the proceeds from that album I'm taking and donating those proceeds towards the by request show that goes through walls into nursing homes and into senior living homes, everywhere where people really are kind of isolated and they need songs and they need music today, and to help to pay musicians to make music virtually.
No, that's just great, Jess. Thanks for updating us. You heard it, all of you. Help support us. help others. And don't you get a great feeling when you're helping another person? And that's why I do it each day. And I'm willing to help anybody out. Send your buy requests in to jessicaleejazz.com. Send them to Alan Levine, the Talking Machine, on Pittsburgh Sportsline or my Facebook page. And we'll pass it on to Jess. If she doesn't know it, she's already shown that she can learn it. And we'll see what we can do there, okay? Just to pump Jess up a little bit. Thanks again for the great songs, Jess. It was my pleasure to learn these things and provide a few little tidbits. So just a great day.
And Al, I just have one more little thing that's hopeful. I need everybody to keep their fingers crossed out there. I booked my first live outdoor concert this week. So yeah, which is, I haven't done that for a long time because of COVID. June 18th, there's a wonderful nonprofit called Swickley, the Sweetwater Center for the Arts in Swickley, PA. And if people want to reserve, they can call them. Mark and I are going to do a concert outdoors.
Yes.
In a beautiful field. And there's a patron of the center that allows these outdoor concerts to take place near the Swickley, PA area. So we're shooting for 7 to 9, that twilight, kind of 7 to 9 p.m. evening time on June 18th. And I'm hoping that we can all get vaccines. If you want to get the vaccine, stay healthy and beat down this coronavirus pandemic and see each other again live this summer. I'm hoping for that. So
great news, Jess. Way to end the show, and stay tuned to our next buy request. And don't be afraid to share this with other friends and people that are shut in, and we'll try to expand it too. So just stay positive and please stay healthy.
Yep. To your health, Al. Thank you so much.
To your health also.